Welcome in, everybody, to Fandom NFL. I'm your QB1, Joe Pisapia, and you've been asking for it, and I'm a man of the people, if nothing else. So I'm giving it to you here today on Fandom NFL. You've been saying, when are you going to have Jake Ciely on? When are you and Jake going to do a show? Well, the answer is now. Right now, this very moment, Jake Ciely from The Athletic joins me here on the program, my old friend, my old colleague. Jake Ciely, the dogs were barking before the show. I think they were excited for the program. We had to kind of wait for them to calm down a little bit, but I'm super hyped. I know the audience is, because today we're going to talk about some of the late round picks, right? Some of those guys that towards the end, the last couple rounds, that maybe you start to throw some darts on, and we'll see whether or not they can return investment. So, Jake, I know you're very busy at The Athletic, so I appreciate you spending time with me, hanging out. Question for you. Are you the most athletic guy at The Athletic?
No.
I didn't think you were.
No, I was gonna say my athletic days or my best days are behind me. Not like worst. I mean, you've seen me in person. I'm not what I used to be, but there are definitely some. There are some pretty yoked dudes over the athletic covering some of the football team. Actually, there's a soccer guy that's like I saw him at a meeting, and I want to say he's not yoked. He's kind of in that like super fit, could play like flag football type of. Very dangerous.
Well, I maybe, you know what, Jake? Maybe you need a fitness journey. I
Is
feel
that
like
what
maybe
it's
it's
a
time.
journey?
Well, you can't just get healthy now. You have to have a journey. That's the way things work now. It's a fit. You can't just say, well, I'm committing to getting healthy and going to the gym. You can't do that. You got to have a fitness journey. You got to film yourself before and after. You got to take pictures of yourself and put them on Instagram. You got to do all these things. Otherwise, it doesn't count. I've been
I
told.
don't have that. I don't have that much time. Like
Oh,
I,
come
ha I
on.
have my fitness routine, and I'm happy where I'm at. I'm in shape, and that's all that matters. Like that's really what. Because I'm more interested in the fact that you skip past the fact that like who were these people that were asking? Like because I don't have that many spam accounts that
Fans?
I use. Yeah, no,
I
I
was
was
going
gonna
to say
say like
fans.
my
No,
burner accounts. I only have like
no.
four, so I don't think that it was very much like all me.
Well, let's see. You got enough time for burner accounts, but not a fitness journey. I see the truth behind you, Jake Ciely. No, but you are a popular request. So again, I'm a man of the
So,
people. I
yeah,
want to put you on,
I'm good.
and I think it's a good show to do with you as well because this is one of those programs where I think everybody at the end is searching around for interesting investments. Right. The thing at the end of drafts is if somebody doesn't work out, you cut them, you move on. Right. But then you look at circumstances where if you threw a dart on Puka Nakua couple years ago with one of your last round picks because that was a guy that went mostly undrafted. Not only did you save yourself a lot of fab, but you won a league. Now, those guys don't
Right.
always appear every year, but every year there are guys that contribute. So to me, Jake, it's identifying circumstances that allow opportunity. That's the number one for me. What else goes into a late round gem pick or a late round dart throw that's worth it for you?
The opportunity is a big thing, but it's what encompasses opportunity, and it doesn't necessarily mean opportunity. And you know this from day one. Like a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times, like he's getting all the attention right now, but Jacoby Lane would be fine if he starts ending in be like an 11th round pick. Then it's out the door because it's not going to be day one. He's got three, four people. Stribbling has at best case scenario is probably fifth, maybe fourth in the target share there. But those are decent targets that already were discussed. And I know they went in the flex leagues. You saw them go
Mm-hmm.
because the opportunity is what could potentially happen, an injury or two, the potential to step into a number two role at wide receiver, the potential to be not just a backup at running back, but the backup who's going to get 60% of the workload if something were to happen. Like for years, you know this, we were chasing, oh, who's the running back behind Saquon Barkley with the Eagles? And the answer was nobody, because if
Right.
anything were to happen, it was a bunch of dudes. And now it looks like it's clearer than it ever has been. But that's really what it comes down to, is creating the, it's kind of almost taking your question and turning it on yourself in your own head. Is ask yourself, is there a path to this person being a top 25 running back, top 35 wide receiver if certain things happen? And if the answer is no, then why are we bothering? And that's always my biggest thing. Like I hate, sorry to say this, Jacoby Myers. Like I'd rather take flyers. I'd rather draft a Jacob. Put it this way, I'd rather draft Jacoby Lane than Jacoby Myers at this point, because at least there's a path for Lane getting inside the top 25. Jacoby Myers is done for at this point. Like at best case, what is he, a wide receiver 3? Because now he's third at the depth chart and what that offense is. So that's really what it comes down to. Now watch Jacoby Myers is going to be the number one wide
Well,
receiver
like
for
I
the
say,
Jaguars.
I
Like
think you just
Parker
jinxed the
Washington gets
Parker
hurt
Washington
tomorrow.
injury. Great. High ankle sprain incoming for Parker Washington. You're the worst, Jake Ciely. But it's good to see you anyway. All right, we're going to talk about Stribbling and some of these other names too in just a moment. Before we do, remember, if you like this video, subscribe, drop your comments below, and you could win the Thurman Thomas autographed helmet. Now, I got a little problem with this because I bought this on eBay, and it's supposed to be here already, and it's not. So I descend. I felt like Jake Ciely, who's, I want to say a Karen, but whatever the male equivalent is, that's what you are. And it hasn't arrived yet, so I have messaged the seller, and if we don't get this, I'm still going to get you something great at 5,000 subscribers. But I plan on getting this helmet to all of you. So again, subscribe to the channel. I'm going to go to the guy's house if I have to get it. Whatever I got to do, we're going to get you a giveaway at 5,000 subscribers. But right now, it's a Thurman Thomas helmet, even if I have to get in a car and drive and pick it up somewhere. Also, don't forget, get your Fantasy Football Black Book 2026. It's available on Amazon right now for purchase. Digital cheat sheets available, just updated as well. And we'll be updated with all of these Tyson injuries and Breece Hall injuries and everything that's going on here. And of course, make sure you go over to RotoWire as well. Use that promo code JoeyP. You get 20% off. You support the channel here at Fandom NFL. And when you download the app and use the tools, you'll be ready for all of your drafts, the mock draft software. You've seen in action on the show. The interface is spectacular. The in-season tools are great for trades, for waiver wire pickups, for everything, lineup advice. Everything you need is there at RotoWire. Again, JoeyP is the promo code. Easy to remember. You get 20% off. All right, let's start with somebody on the Dolphins here that has been getting a lot of helium here, and it is Caleb Douglas, 22 years old, wide receiver. Obviously, the projections at RotoWire you can kind of throw out the window because when you have projections for late-round guys, it's like, let's just throw a couple yards and a couple catches his way and see what happens. So projections are not interesting at all. But what's interesting is the camp buzz. It's getting more complicated because Chris Bell got activated. But I still say you've now gone from one interesting wide receiver to maybe two. Like that, and that is still pushing it. There's still nobody there in Miami that I am super excited about. But it seems, at least from the early going in camp, and I know sometimes that's overrated and overblown, and we don't want to put too much on it. But it does seem like Malik Willis does have some sort of rapport and relationship developing on the field with Douglas. So talk to me about Caleb Douglas. I know you've got some shares of him late in drafts. I've got some shares of him lately in drafts. Let's talk about the why other people should do the same and follow suit.
Because this is one of those scenarios that, like, the narrative, like, what's the narrative here? And you look at the fact that they drafted Caleb Douglas, and it's the wide open competition of Jalen Tolbert, who's pretty much a 3 or 4 on any NFL team. Malik Washington, who hasn't done a lot to this point of his career. Other random names down the list. Tutu Atwell. They really think that Tutu Atwell is going to be a top 2 option on this team. And KC Washington, the other Washington, actually, is he still with them? I don't know. Whatever it might be. Like,
I can't believe you missed a pun there for Tutu Atwell to be a number 2 on the team. Like that is a classic Jake Ciely moment that you are getting old. You're missing things, kid. You gotta.
I'm too bit. I'm trying to be more reasonable these times. It was Taj Washington is who I was thinking of. The other Washington. There's like too many no-name Washingtons in the NFL. Is really
some
what
would
comes
say
down
too
to.
many.
There you go.
I'll see myself out.
Good night, everybody. Anyway, it came down to the fact, like, whether because you cover rookies too, is that at the time in the draft, everybody sat there and was like, what? When the Dolphins took Caleb Douglas, because nobody had him going that high in the draft. Nobody thought that much of him. I still thought he was like a Cedric Tillman type, and we see how that's worked out for the Browns. But the fact is, they took him, and look, the dogs are getting all excited about Caleb Douglas here. Go to your treat. Leave me alone. I'm trying to do a podcast with Joe. Anyway,
The best.
I know they took him in front of Chris Bell, and that was okay. Is it because Chris Bell is hurt and might not be ready to start the season, or did they really believe in Caleb Douglas? And so it's not only that you had the draft behind it, but then also you had to talk the entire off season camp. Is that they see something with him, they see potential there. And you brought up the name that matters here, Malik Willis. Oh, by the way, he can throw downfield. He's not just a check down artist, and we've seen that before. So if Caleb Douglas has a top 2 role, people wanted to talk up Jalen Tolbert. And, like, fine, if he actually won a top 2 job, maybe you take a flyer on him as a wide receiver 5. But the intrigue was the unknown, the upside of the rookie. And so that's really what it came down to. Yeah, Chris Bell being activated, maybe this ends up being a sum of the parts, ends up being a mess, and we don't want anybody at the end of the year. But as of right now, it looks like he's at least the 1 or the 2 in an offense that, if he's the 1 and Chris Bell comes along, I would still take Bell talent over him, but that's going to take time. So I think it really comes down to if he has 100 targets. I did this post a few weeks ago for Jalen Coker, Joe, and over the past 5 years, receivers with at least 100 targets, there's only been 3 names that haven't finished inside the top 40 with also 20% of the team's target share, which that's really what it takes to get 100 targets anyway. Sure. Yeah, do you want to know what the 3 names were? Elijah Moore, Jerry Jeudy, and Elijah Moore again with two different teams. Elijah Moore Jets and Elijah Moore Browns, wow. Elijah Moore Jets. He did it twice. Wow. That's top 40. Now, 100 targets, top 40. And that's we were talking about these opportunities. So if Douglas gets 100, even on the Dolphins, if it's Chris Bell, if it's somebody else, anybody with 100 targets is going to be relevant in fantasy.
Yeah, that is a great stat, first of all. So it does remind me why I do keep having you back on shows with me. Second of all, you bring up a good point, too, about Malik Willis, which is this guy does have a big arm. Let's not forget that. I'm old enough to remember his pro day with Liberty where Mike Tomlin was just grinning ear to ear watching him throw these deep balls. And, of course, they ended up drafting Kenny Pickett instead. Story for another time, kids. But, yeah, there's opportunity abound with the Dolphins. So if you're taking a shot in a 14-team league or even a 12-teamer that's really competitive on a Caleb Douglas or on a, even a Chris Bell to a certain extent too, which I did in a 14-team league of the Kings Classic myself. We're just throwing darts, hoping that we can hit somebody that reach that 100 target volume. And if they do, they become really interesting. Now, you mentioned about some guys that are kind of suppressed in terms of the pecking order, but you never know when the substation calls and gets hungry. They might start eating more players. And when the substation calls for the next 49er, it could be DeShaun Stribbling time. Now, Stribbling, another guy who had a really eye-opening performance recently in preseason. You see the projections for him, 47 receptions, 581, 4 touchdowns. We all get it. DeShaun Stribbling is lower on the pecking order, right? You got Mike Evans. Now, Ricky Pearsall's out. That's one that is positive for Stribbling's value, that's for sure. And Mike Evans does have some hamstring issues, is older. We get that. George Kittle still working his way back. Christian McCaffrey, 30 years old on the other side of things. So there's a pathway and there's going to be opportunity. Christian Kirk is in this mix as well, which makes it a little muddier, but he's dealing with some issues too. So it feels like Stribbling for me, Jake, is one of these guys that I like what I see in training camp footage. I really loved what I saw in preseason. I don't want to take too much out of it. But it's not a hard sell for me to look at the 49ers and say, is everybody going to stay healthy on this team for an entire year? And the answer is, I think, undoubtedly no. So at some point, I do think Stribbling becomes one of these guys that saves you fab. It's whether or not you can hold on to him long enough on your roster with bye weeks and everything going on that he remains relevant. So what's your take on Stribbling, what you've seen so far, and is it influencing you in some of your drafts?
So Stribbling, shout out to my cohort over Dan Brugler at The Athletic. He was higher than anybody. You remember that? He was the highest Stribbling guy there was. And there was a lot of wow, where's this coming from? Let's also be acknowledging the fact of what the talent is. And there's still major question marks over what he can be in the NFL. But he fell to one of the teams that would say, hey, you know what? Let's take notice by who drafted him and what the opportunity is. Now, you bring up the other part, the opportunity, and that's why I brought it up at the beginning. He's behind Mike Evans, Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle to start. That's 4 names he's not passed in the pecking order. Maybe he gets past Deebo, but then he's still 4th at best. And we're talking about a low-volume passing offense that just has a very high touchdown efficiency because it's Shanahan and Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy continues to be one of the highest rates in touchdown percentages. So I'm not saying that can't continue, and maybe Stribbling's interesting in kind of like a Juwan Jennings type of situation, but he would still need to get to 4th to be there, which means an injury can happen. Like Deebo Samuel, it could be an injury. Mike Evans could be hurt. Like how long Mike Evans made it without getting hurt is actually pretty damn.
I didn't even mention Deebo in that pecking order. That's on me. I mean, it's still relatively fresh, but that's another.
It still feels weird that he's back, doesn't it?
It does. It feels like whenever this happens, when a guy goes back to his original team, I always feel like some kind of bizarre time warp thing. Like when OBJ just showed up on the Giants and they gave him a big standing ovation. I was like, this feels weird. This feels like you and I are doing On Target again. That's what era that is.
Award-winning
radio, award-winning, I might add, award-winning program. But yeah, I mean, but all those guys, Deebo too, I think is not. Deebo, another guy that is not without his injury history.
Yeah, but here's the thing. So everything's there where like you could say like there's no way this team stays healthy again. But forget that. Like here's the question. And what you need to ask yourself, are you willing to be patient? Because the Stribblings of the world, you said it, you embedded it in the question there, is that if you're going to draft Stribbling just to drop him in week 3, you should not be drafting Stribbling because that's not the point. So I'm more of the interest, and of course you can't do this in the flex leagues and the high-end leagues that anybody listening might be in. But if you're in a casual league, let somebody else take him in the 10th round. They're going to get tired by week 2 or 3 when, he's not doing anything because nobody's hurt yet. They drop him, and then you go pick him up for free. And then you got like your bonus pick in the round 10 or whatever it might be, because it's the Stribblings of the world. If you want to bring up Jacoby Lanes, it's those guys that aren't going to hit to start the year unless, if Mike Evans gets hurt in week 1, that's different. And you're going to be like, oh man, I wish I would have been able to. Like, the chances of that are slimmer than the fact that people are probably going to drop them by being impatient. So if you're drafting them, draft them, but know that you're going to be waiting there. It's essentially a handcuff situation at running back. You're going to be waiting. If you get to the week 8 and everybody's still healthy and you need somebody to pick up for your buys, then you drop them. Okay, fine. But just don't draft them just to turn around and drop them in the first month.
The next guy we're going to talk about is one of my favorite late round picks, and he's starting to get a little bit of helium because he's proving that he is healthy again for the first time in a long time, and that is Tank Dell. Now, Tank Dell, when we've seen him healthy with CJ Stroud, we've seen how good he can be, right? Tank Dell is explosive. He is tough to cover. He has big playability. He has a rapport with CJ Stroud. He's got all the tools and now a surgically repaired leg to go along with it. And although Jaden Higgins is a very intriguing prospect to me still, Nico Collins is still the number one, and we all know that that's, undoubtedly just facts. Tank Dell's role in this offense, I think, is unique. And it's unique enough, and the role he plays and the history that he has with Stroud, to me, makes him very worthy of an investment. Even if he is slow on the uptick in September and they manage his snaps, this is still an investment that I think bears fruit in the latter part of the season. The last 8 weeks of the season, I can see Tank Dell being a very useful player. Now, what I'm curious is, how far do you think he's going to start to go? Because right now he's one of these guys we just kind of, last round, second to last round, boom, Tank Dell. And I did it in Flex, and I just did it in Black Book Charity League that just drafted this week. So I feel like it's going to tick up a little bit the more we see him and the more the reports are good. But do you think it's going to get to a point where you're out on Tank Dell, or you think it's got to stay kind of in this low range free 99 category bin in order to capitalize?
So I would say no to your answer because I'm not in yet.
Okay, still not in.
Yes,
Also,
I'm a little.
Great. Why? This is why I love this show. Why are you? I just told you all the reasons I'm in.
Yeah.
Why are you out?
Because I don't think we're going to get a clear number 2 on this team. And so I'm a Jaden Higgins fan, admittedly has said, but I see his ceiling as a Marvin Jones. Steve Smith has talked him up a lot in his podcast, and that's Steve Smith. So I'm pulling in somebody else that's not us, a former NFL wide receiver. Nico Collins has called him like his little brother, or whatever his name was, that he was basically calling him a clone of himself. Point being, I don't think he's that. But where I see the opportunity for Tank Dell is because Tank Dell is not Jaden Higgins, is not Nico Collins. So if you're looking at how this offense is going to be designed, do you want 2 Nico Collinses out there? And that's kind of not what we've seen with CJ Stroud, because what you're bringing up is the fact that Tank Dell fit a little bit better for CJ Stroud and having a different dynamic weapon than Nico Collins. I'm not saying that Jaden Higgins can't be the guy, but that's why we also heard Jalen Noel last year, Jalen Noel last year, is that
there's no Christmas carols here for this.
No. But it's really comes down to my overall opinion is this is an offense that is doing and already headed towards it last year. I'm talking about now more with their offensive coordinator scheme, is that this is going to be one of those teams that does a lot of 2 and 3 tight ends. And the numbers behind 2 and 3 tight ends is that the one is not effective. The number 1 wide receiver stays on the field, out there, 1 wide receiver sets. Nico Collins is not coming off. It's not just the 2 that is. It's the 2 and the 3. And that's the problem, is that the 2 and the 3 end up coming off the field at different times, like depending on what their skills they want to be out there with the 2 and 3 tight ends. It might be Nico and Higgins. It might be Nico and Noel. It might be Nico and Tank Dell, whoever gets that role. And that's my concern, is that we're even going to be wrong on Higgins, is that the end of the season is going to be, we really wanted nobody but Nico. And that's why. So I will say I will get in on him, and it might be too late if we get the word that, hey, Tank Dell has the number 2, Higgins hasn't been performing what we want him to be, he's back, Dell's back to 100%, then I'll be invested, because even if he's coming off the field 5-10% of the time, it still won't be enough to knock him out of wide receiver 4 territory. Mm-hmm. But that's kind of where I'm like, as a Jaden Higgins guy, I'm kind of like, I don't know that I really want anybody in the Texans after Nico Collins right now.
Yeah, I respectfully disagree. because I
That's what
believe that Tank Dell, and this is again why this is why we want awards together, because we have the conversations, the hard talks. This is when Danny Tanner sits down with his kids and says, DJ, I know you got mad about not doing well in that test, but you should not have put that whoopee cushion under your teacher's chair.
You know what? That's the problem with society is we don't have the Friday night shows teaching everybody. We don't have
Morals.
Family Matters and all these shows from Friday night. We need to bring step by step. We need to bring all those good-hearted shows back to teach kids how to live in the world.
Maybe we should do a fantasy version of that where we sit people down and it's like, I know you thought taking Christian McCaffrey was going to be a good idea this year, and sure, sometimes things look really good, but next thing you know, you're smoking in the bathroom, and it's all a downhill cycle.
Boy Meets World, Family Matters, Step by Step, Full House. There was one other that mixed in there a little bit that took this place and they swapped out in between.
Was it just the 10 of us early on, I want to say? Or no?
Was it?
I don't know.
You keep talking. I'm going to look this up.
Oh, no. Perfect Strangers, I think, was originally in that movie.
Oh, Balky Bartakamoose.
There you go.
The Dance of Joy.
Football, you stay for the Dance of Joy. That's what you do with Fandom NFL. But Tank Dell, working out of the slot, Tank Dell usage, I don't think... Jaden Higgins is, everybody says, is kind of Nico Collins-like clone. And I agree with that take. I actually think that's a pretty solid consensus. You bring up Steve Smith saying things. Well, Steve Smith is right about some things. Steve Smith is wrong about some things. He didn't think Teteroa McMillan was any good. I remember LaDainian Tomlinson coming out and talking about how he thought that Trey Benson was the best running back in that draft. There's a lot of problems, right? With some
to be fair, we still don't know if he's any good.
Well, that's a story for another show. I'm in on Tank Dell. I want to know what the audience thinks. Drop your comments below. Are you in on Tank Dell like me? Are you out on Tank Dell like Jake Ciely? Or do you just want Bob Saget to come back and teach us a lesson?
Yeah, what's your favorite TGIF show? By the way, the other two...
You know what? That's a poll going up. I'm going to put that up on the community.
Sabrina the Teenage Witch rotated in, and Dinosaurs. I forgot. Not the mama. I forgot Dinosaurs.
Dinosaurs.
But the core four. We got the core four.
That was going to be a good idea. We did get the core four.
Didn't they die at the end? Wasn't that how the show ended?
The dinosaurs? Spoiler alert,
yes.
Everybody. The dinosaurs all
died. No, but I'm saying it's a Friday night TGI show.
Do you think the earth is flat?
I just saw the last house, or the end of Oak Street. So, the dinosaurs are coming back. I'm telling you.
Let's move on to more players. Let's start with two running backs here now and shift gears a little bit. Let's talk about Marshawn Lloyd, who is becoming an intriguing late round pick. Kind of a kitschy one here towards the end. This was somebody that I know a lot of people were in on a couple years ago. Injuries, Josh Jacobs' explosion of just incredible dependency. There was a lot of consensus think at one point that Josh Jacobs was going to basically peter out in Green Bay when the Raiders sent him away, and that did not happen. He's had some of his best years now as a Packer. But we've got some off-the-field issues. We've got some on-the-field volume issues that kind of caught up with him a little bit last year where he missed some time. Emmanuel Wilson filled in, so Marshawn Lloyd looking like an intriguing backup as that number 2 on the depth chart, if you do indeed believe that he would be the next man up. And then you've got Keaton Mitchell, another guy that Jake, I know, is in on. 24 years old, backup at the Chargers. Projections for him, 82 carries for 462 touchdowns. I feel like both of these guys, if you're trying to handcuff, save some money, if you invest in Jacobs, to me it does make sense to kind of have Lloyd already, because there is a chance for numerous reasons, right? Not just health, but some of the extracurricular oddness that's going on there with the domestic violence and what the NFL has shown us in the last couple of years, what they're willing to do with suspensions, regardless of where we're at with investigations. I get that. I also get the Keaton Mitchell take because Omarion Hampton hasn't proved it yet, and I'm a big Omarion Hampton guy. So let's talk about Lloyd. Let's talk about Keaton Mitchell, and walk me through these two guys and your opinion of them.
So the funny thing is, and you want to talk about my curse and ruining people, when Marshawn Lloyd was drafted, my rookie profile for him, I actually didn't even do a smash up for him, Joe, because my smash up was the same player. I said the best of James Conner, the worst of James Conner injury-wise was legitimately my wording. And unfortunately, we've seen Barkley's getting upset. I'm going to throw these dogs outside at some point, run around in the yard.
You have no control over these animals in your house.
Throw sounds so bad. Put him outside to run around in the yard.
No animals were harmed in the making of this podcast, everyone. I just want you to know. Okay? We love dogs here on the show. I love dogs. I foster dogs. Jake has 2 dogs.
Had a
Jake,
third.
now that
Both
you have a
rescues.
third one? Oh my
No,
God.
had a
Look
third.
at you.
It was
You had a
Sofs.
third. Oh,
Yeah,
I
it was
got you.
Sofs until she moved out.
So
This
go
is for
back to
everybody
your Lloyd
asking.
take
Everybody
because
knows Bart. Here, come here,
everybody knows
Ziggs.
Barkley. There you
This
go.
is Ziggy.
Oh,
There's
Ziggy's
Ziggy.
so cute. Look at that. So cute. We're gonna brand this. But going
So
back to
anyway,
James Conner for
Marshawn
a
Lloyd.
second, Connor was a
Yes.
guy that took a while, right? Let's not forget that
Yeah.
James Conner was a guy that didn't pop right away. He had his illness issue and all that, and then people were suspect that he would ever become something. And it does feel very much like the third take of James Conner, which is he's the best and the worst of James Conner, but also maybe the same exact career path of James Conner.
Which we're heading towards. It's funny that Brooks and Lloyd are two running backs from that draft class that were thought of super highly, including myself, and like we haven't really seen them yet. The truth is, Marshawn Lloyd would have been going where he should be going. That's as an RB4 if we knew he was 100%. If he was Marshawn Lloyd, anything that we thought coming out of college. But the big question is, what is he at this point? And we spent most of this offseason still not knowing if Marshawn Lloyd was even going to play this year. But now all the opportunities are there. Even if, and I say that, because if Jacobs is 100%, if he's not suspended, if he's ready for week 1, and all that being said, Lloyd is still one of the premier backup running backs to have because not just the talent, but this is a backfield that often shares touches. That if you look at the history, going back to even Aaron Jones days, the one thing I will say why I'm okay still with Josh Jacobs is like a third, fourth rounder is because if that split were to happen, I still believe Jacobs would be the goal line option. And that's one of the things that you've seen with this offense before is that while even being split, they generally lean on one running back at the goal line, whether it was Dylan, Aaron Jones, whoever it might be. So I'm still okay with Jacobs, but we might have standalone value with Marshawn Lloyd as an RB3 flex. And then if anything were to happen to Jacobs, I mean, he's getting dinged up at this point of his career. He's got a lot of work on that body. Like Lloyd just should be seen as one of those premier options where he should be going. Like I have him ranked alongside. It's not that, and now I'm not calling Tracy a premier backup option, but in the world
but
of
he's one that started before
right,
in the NFL.
a
So
Corum,
that's
an Aaron Jones, a Tracy, a Braylon Allen now with like Brees Hall. It sounds like he's going to be okay for week 1, but those are the names. He should have been in that group if we knew he was 100%, which this sounds like he is. The Keaton Mitchell is the same conversation, but a little bit different because I think Keaton Mitchell can have standalone value because of Mike McDaniel. I did not knock down Amarin Hampton with that news that, oh, McDaniel loves all his running backs. By the way, you remember this, Joe? 2 RB1s when he was with the Dolphins because who cares? They're going to be sharing touches out of the backfield. That even go back to Tevin Coleman and Devonta Freeman for the Falcons. I'm not that concerned, but Keaton Mitchell can be a standalone RB3 flex. The difference is I do not think that if something were to happen to Hampton, this would be Keaton Mitchell 65% of the work. I think that would still remain a timeshare. Slight uptick to Mitchell because he would go from 35-40% to maybe 50-50 split with Vidal. But that's where it's a little bit different. So I'd rather have Lloyd than Mitchell, but I like getting both of them.
All right. 2 more guys to talk about. By the way, I agree with your takes on both of these situations too. And the Lloyd one, to me, I think is a little cuckoo right now because if you look at the ADP of Marshawn Lloyd, he's the 56th running back off the board. Like people are taking Tank Bigsby over him, and I don't get that. I don't understand that. To me, there's a much clearer path of Marshawn Lloyd being useful this year than Tank Bigsby. And it's not a knock on Tank, right? Jonah Coleman, I would take over him because again, I think Jonah Coleman is a unique scenario.
Over Bigsby or Lloyd?
Over both, because I think there's a path for him early on because I do not trust J.K. Dobbins at all. I think Jonah Coleman, you've seen me take everywhere in drafts, in mock drafts here on the channel, all over the place. Like that's one of those guys for me. But Dylan Sampson, Mike Washington Jr., all still going ahead of Marshawn Lloyd in the consensus ADP that I see on RotoWire, which is kind of crazy. It's kind of nuts. So I disagree with that.
I think the only reason, like, I definitely not Sampson, but I could see Washington only because if like legit today in practice, Genty high ankle sprain, people will go. And I think that's the.
I'm the big. So Debro and I watched film together, and we did some film shows together. Before any of the hype around Mike Washington, I was the big Mike Washington guy. Before the combine, he got to the combine, he broke the combine, right? And everyone's like, "Oh, who's this guy?" And I kept saying he is Steven Jackson light to me. That's what he reminds me of. He is powerful.
I comped him to Carson and Jay Ajayi.
Okay. Yeah, it's funny. Jay Ajayi was one of the guys that I think Debro kind of comped him as. But you know what? That physical, tough runner. But it was very eye-opening for the rest of the NFL world who doesn't really watch college football much to watch Mike Washington play and be like, oh, wow. Like you saw the combine stuff and that piqued some people's interest, but they still didn't see it. Now they saw it, and now people are going a little gaga, and I think I'm the guy saying pump the brakes a little bit, which is
Yeah,
hilarious
this
and
is
bizarre. But you're right. If something happened to Genty, next thing you know, we're in a different universe. All right, two more guys I want to talk about. Both happen to be wide receivers in New York. Well, New Jersey, technically. Malachi Fields of the New York Football Giants, 22 years old. They have him projected right now 26 catches, 295, 2 touchdowns. Obviously, the projections are not exciting for Malachi Fields, but at Notre Dame, I think a very solid career. Solid. Like, that's the word that I use when it comes to Malachi Fields. I believe in him, and I think he is going to be, you said Marvin Jones, right? One of those kind of guys. We're like, yeah, that's a guy that you're going to have on teams, and he's going to, fill in bye weeks, and he's going to be useful early on, and maybe there's projectability for more depending on opportunity. And then there's A.D. Mitchell of the New York Jets, an offense that I want very little to do with this year, that I still don't understand why people are optimistic about in any way. It's already getting off to a bad start with Breece Hall missing a couple weeks with a groin injury. But A.D. Mitchell is another one of these names that's kind of flying up draft boards. So who would you rather have between Mitchell and Fields? And if you want, you can also make a case for both of them.
I'll make a case for both where they're going because you don't have to spend a lot on either. But I will say if the price continues to climb on Mitchell, and the reason it's climbing is because Amari Cooper's not hitting the ground running as people thought he might, and maybe that's part of the offense. Maybe that's the fact that you're just going to keep him in the slot, similarly to Jeremy Bernard with the Steelers. Is that hey, you're just going to be the third wide receiver? Let's expect a little bit more in year 2 and 3, and that's actually a path for a lot. That's the path for high-end name wide receivers like JSN. And no, I'm not saying either should be on the planet stratosphere of JSN, but we had that happen with Roma Dunze and Luther Burden with the same team where they start out as the third option, not as much in the slot with the Dunze, but you understand my point there. Mm-hmm. So I understand playing it slow with Amari Cooper, and I think that's the appeal is that, hey, if Geno can just be mid-level, Geno was ruined by the Raiders as much as anybody was last year as well, and I don't think Geno's going to be the savior of the Jets, but if he can be a mid-level quarterback, somebody's going to benefit besides Garrett Wilson. And I think that's why people are going after A.D. Mitchell, because he's holding off Cooper. And this is somebody that was thought of as a very quality-level talent, good yards with the catch, after and in the air, and everything. I was talking about Mitchell. And a real issue when he came out of college was, is he going to be able to handle the off-the-field stuff? And there's been a lot of mess since he's been with the Colts back and forth. There's been flashes. But if you're maximizing the talent, he's still only going to be a wide receiver 4. And I think that's why people are going after him. Because it's the narrative we started at the beginning of the show. If he's going to be the number 2 and he's going to see close to 100 targets, I gave you the number, he's probably going to be in the top 40 conversation. That's a lot to ask of anybody on the Jets, but it could happen. Fields, I'd rather have for the upside, mostly because you brought up Notre Dame. Part of the offense was behind why his numbers weren't better. C.J. Carr last year, as good as he was, and everybody's talking about him as potential Heisman and everything in this draft class or whatever, he still wasn't the complete C.J. Carr at probably till the middle of the season last year. And in that offense, it wasn't also one that designed a hell of a lot for their wide receivers.
No,
because
a lot of Jeremiah Love and a lot of Jadarian Price. Like, that's what you got.
And Eli Raridan. Like, there's a lot where they still use their tight ends. So I look at Fields, but I will say this about him. As cool the Jets, as like he's announced the number 2, don't expect top 30, top 35. Like, I'd say he's going to be inconsistent. You said Marvin Jones. I said Mike Williams back in the day, but not the top 20 Mike Williams, like more of that. Okay, I got 90 and a touchdown this week. I got 14 on 2 catches this week. Like, it's going to be this, and you're going to have to live with it, even if he's the number 2, because let's not forget Isaiah Likely is still involved as a top 3 option there. So I'm in on both of them, but I see an easier path if everything starts clicking for the Giants offense with Dart. But that's also a concern too. Like, I could see Fields and Mitchell being 2 highly dropped players by week 3 just because things aren't working right for either team. Like everybody's focused. Like, I'm not saying you're doing this, but everybody's focused on, oh, things aren't going right for the Jets. Tua looked like garbage. He did. The Falcons looked like trash. But everybody's kind of just
are going to be a bad story this year. That is
team. I moved Drake London behind Chris Olave and AJ Brown.
I have dropped. Well, I already had AJ Brown ahead of Drake London, but you've seen in sharper drafts too, like the Black Book Charity League has got a lot of sharp folks in that I've been playing with for long years. And you saw London's value go down. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting. This is a very sharp league. And you saw it.
It's not even the depth. It's that I'm concerned he doesn't get 35% of the target share with Tua. Like, Tua was throwing it to Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts might get 35% of the target share. How bad is this? We are rooting for Michael Penix to be the entire year starter for the Falcons.
kind of
Yeah.
says it all.
Anyway,
Jake.
to go back to this, is like nobody's really focusing on the Giants' offense is really not clicking so far, and that's a lot to ask. It's a completely new regime.
Completely new, take time.
Yes,
Yeah.
it takes time, but I bring that up to say you remember this, Joe. This is back when I used to care about the Giants. Is that Eli Manning? Like Eli Manning, for all his warts and the hate and everything like that, still a very accomplished quarterback. And the year they made that massive overhaul of change, there was a lot of beat reporters who said it's going to take 6 to 8 weeks. It took about 5 to 6 for it to really click. And that was Eli Manning. That was also in the middle. That wasn't like the beginning of Eli's career. That was the middle of his career. And it took that long for him to adjust and for that offense to adjust. And we're talking about a second-year player and all the changes that you have Greg Roman calling the run game. You had Nagy calling the pass game. You have Harbaugh taking over. So I think the Giants might be one. Like, you saw that play where Tracy is getting all the hate for getting blown up. Mm-hmm. I feel like I watched that like 7 times, and I was like, I feel like this play was just blown up from the start. Like something wasn't right. Like Dart either missed in like something.
And that's part of adjusting to a new offense, which is why the one piece I want in that offense that I've been very vocal from the first show of fandom till now and probably all the way straight through is
Patrick
the
Ricard?
Cam Scadaboo. No, the Cam Scadaboo part. Because that's the one thing I know is not going to change. I know Cam Scadaboo is going to have a big role in this offense because, as you said, Greg Roman wants to run the football, right?
Yep.
I think
and we'll totally sign Najee Harris.
They should have me be the coordinator for third downs, you be the coordinator for second downs. So you have a coordinator for like every single play, every single formation. We'll get a different coordinator for. I think that's probably the best route for the Giants.
I just need to be. I need to be passing downs only. Like I can scheme route trees. Like I'm like seriously. Like that's my skill set. Don't ask me to do the run game. I'm admittedly, all I will say.
Well, you and I will have to fight for that job because as offensive coordinator here, that's my thing, But
you can be the full-time offensive coordinator. I'm just saying, just give me the passing game.
I want you to be the
underneath.
passing game coordinator. I'll be the full OC. So on the sideline, I'll tell you, Before I let you go here, first of all, great stuff as always. Love having you on the show. Hopefully you'll come
wait, I wanted to ask, would you be concerned if they sign Najee Harris? Because I would be that we're turning into this.
No.
So
for
kudos. Oh, I would be because I will reference I agree with this one take. Like I'm not that concerned. I did my 3 biggest fallers for the Athletic, and I said Scadaboo might be, but let's be patient. And I brought this up, but like shout out to him because it wasn't me who said this. But PFF, Nathan Jonke tweeted out, and he said if they sign Harris, Mark Ingram equals Scadaboo, Gus Edwards equals Najee Harris. No. Here's the thing. This is my concern is that he only gets 200 carries. That's my worry that Scadaboo, if they sign Najee Harris, only if they sign Harris, that the carries aren't with volume that we want.
Before I let you go, 2 things. First of all, any thoughts on the Keenan Allen signing that happened yesterday?
That was fun for my Josh Downs shares. That was a lot of fun. Different. Yeah. Like he plays a different role than Alec. No, well, because he's not Alec Pierce, who he's replacing. You watch him and he will play some outside, but they were talking about playing downs outside. Okay, cool. They can keep him in the inside. The target share is going to come down. Keenan Allen was actually coming off 20% target share when he was on the field. Plus, like when he's on the field, he's still getting targeted over 20% of the time. And I'm not worried about, let's be clear, Joe. I'm not drafting a single Keenan Allen share. I would take Jacoby Myers before I took Keenan Allen, to make that clear. That being said,
you hate Jacoby Myers. We've made that abundantly clear.
Sorry, Jacoby. But I will say, I had Downs going for about 20% of the target share, factoring the Pierce injury, if he even plays this year. And now it's down to 17, 18%. It's not a huge drop, but it's enough that Downs goes from an intriguing potential wide receiver 3 to probably a 4 or 5 with a lot more inconsistency.
I do like it for Daniel Jones, though. I think bringing in a veteran there.
Yes.
As long as he's in good shape and he comes in, I think you saw in the beginning of last year, too. I don't think Keenan Allen's going to be very useful to you down the stretch, but I think in the first 6 weeks, if you don't like your wide receiver room and you have Keenan Allen as a back-end pick there, that he can kind of get you by until other guys like the Stribblings of the world or Tank Dell or Malachi Fields or Caleb Douglas pop off. That's exactly the thing, and we've brought it full circle. All right, we went long because, of course, it's me and Jake. This is what we do.
I don't know what's long.
I don't know. I would usually like to keep it around 30-something minutes here, but we're almost at 40 already. Before I let you go, TGIF trivia. Do you remember in Family Matters, after a couple seasons, they just got rid of a kid, and they never talked about it? Do you remember this? There was another sister in the family that the Winslows had, and she wasn't really interesting. They had too many kids, it was too many mouths to feed. I don't know. They just got rid of her. They never spoke about her again. She just disappeared from the family.
They sent her off to a farm.
Who knows? They sent her to a farm upstate. It was terrible.
No, the only thing I remember in that fashion is with Fresh Prince switched out the mom. And then
yes, but this wasn't a switching out. They didn't replace
No,
they
but
just said one kid too many.
Do you remember that though? Because they even made a comment in that episode, and then he's like, "You did something with your hair," and like Will Smith looks at the camera, like they even kind of acknowledged it. That was great. But anyway, no, I don't remember who this kid was.
Judy Winslow, 4 seasons. Actually, they replaced her after season 4. So yeah, so 4
Judy
seasons
Winslow.
where they just got rid of her. She was just an extra kid.
Oh,
yeah, and
yeah.
I couldn't remember the name of it, but I was like, I'm gonna give Jake a trivia question at the end of the show.
No, now I remember. Like I see, yeah, because she had like the 3 pigtails that weren't like in like they were like.
She was like,
spots.
you're not cute enough to be the very littlest kid, or young enough to be like the cute one. You're not old enough to be interesting. You're just kind of
the character was quietly written off the show without explanation,
and they never explained it. Never explained it. There you go. Fun facts, everybody. Jake Ciely from
maybe
The
she
Athletic.
wasn't a kid. Maybe she just hung out in the house all the time, and they were just like, they didn't
No,
know how to tell
her
her to
name
go
was
away.
Winslow. It's Judy Winslow, unless she was a cousin. The cousin
Winslow is a kind of common name. It's not like it's Piece of P or Sealy. Like I mean,
just a random Winslow who just walked in all of a sudden.
just like hangs out with her family all the time,
and then just disappeared. No,
they stopped feeding her. I don't know.
No. All right, I'm gonna stop feeding you here. No more Jake Ciely, everybody. But hopefully we'll get him back another time. Go check out all his work at The Athletic, and make sure you subscribe to the channel. Drop your comments below. Let us know what you think. Remember, we hit 5,000. If you subscribe to the channel, drop your comments, ring the bell till it goes ding, like this video, do all the things you're supposed to. Somebody's going to win a cool thing. I just sent out the Zay Flowers autographed jersey. So right now, still the Thurman Thomas helmet. I might have to beat somebody up or change it. But whatever it is, we're still giving away something amazing at 5,000. So keep on subscribing, keep hanging out. Jake Ciely, you're the best. That'll do it for us, but the story of the game goes on. For Jake, I'm Joey P. This has been Fandom NFL.